Any question about that? What's mean by terrible? Okay. 有冇問題 The student said about the terrible. Terrible what? You mean the rage way or what else about? Okay. Now, anyway, let's take a look at the assignment answer. And you don't need to do. You don't need to copy anything unless you would like to, because I will post the assignment to the Moodle tomorrow or Saturday. So you don't need to bother to take any answer. Now here will be. Now just like that. Just like that here. Topic 1 and 2. All right. For question 1, 3 marks question. Now just like that. How you score the full? Calculate the GDP. Show your calculation here. So GDP equals to C plus I plus G plus NX or X minus M. 1 mark for here. 1 mark for here. Steps. Answer. Now let's look about that. Here will be, what will be C item? Here. There will be consumption, and consumption. Right? 1, 2, 3. Now, any question about that? What about investment? Here. Now, here will be household purchase of new house belongs to investment. We have been keep saying that, right? Equipment, inventory, new structure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any question about that? Now, some students raise a question about the depreciation here. There's nothing important for that, because throughout this course, we just discussing about the GDP, gross domestic product. We don't talk something, or we don't talk anything about NDP or GNP or NNP something. We just discuss about the GNP, because this is just a university level. We just talk about the concept of GDP and what does it mean for, right? We just talk something related to GDP. That is good enough. We just know about the concept. So here will be. So for depreciation here, it will be included in the investment item. And here will be just roll for here. You may treat it as a just figure. Okay, that will be. So you can ignore it for calculating of the GDP. 本身呢度已經係 cover 咗個 GDP 嘅，或者係 consider 或者係 include the depreciation here. So that will be just repeated. Okay, and then for government expenditure, that will be here, salary, public work, right? And X minus M here. And this will be the answer. So, any question about for question 1? 冇問題. If no, what will be question 2? Now, here will be the following table to try to translate. That will be the CPI basket. And of course, that will be a hypothetical, right? Just like in our lecture notes. In our lecture note, the CPI basket just consists of 2 goods. And it will be just hypothetical. It will be just simplify the stuff that we would like to learn. So here will be 2 types of goods. Now, the quantity, the price of plum, the price of orange, quantity. So you just take reference of our lecture note and you will see how you get the mark. Here, find the CPI and inflation rate in year 2. Show your calculation again. find the CPI and the inflation
佢
rate.
答案咯，想睇
So
啱唔啱？
what about it?
啱
If you
2B
want
方
to
啊
get the CPI in year 2,
2B
you need
即係
to
個題咩？
calculate the cost of basket in year 1 and
哦
year
呢
2.
題
And
答
year
案
1 is the base year.
一間講
So here will be the basket.
冇人會錯呢題㗎，快
You
啲啦！
just take reference of your lecture notes and you will find it out. Right here. CPI in year 2. And of course, CPI in year 1, that will be 100.
哇一盒
Because of the CPI in base year will be 100. So here will be inflation rate of course 16.13. So any question about that? 3 marks.
我諗緊係唔係咧四個原因加埋一齊，即係咩
and half one and half one.
唔知咩
That
啊
will
嗰
be
啲啊。哦，我知啦，cost of living 唔代
question
表
for that.
inflation 啊，唔代表 inflation 啊，係我嗰陣已經
So
過咗。嗰陣答嗰陣，我未
what
抄
about
邊
the
啊，仲
another
未
one
get 到
here?
邊度，我只抄邊。
Now let's look about that. The question 4. Question 2. Part 2.
cost of living 唔代表
Based on the result in 1, does the computer CPI overstay or understay the actual increase in the cost of living in year 2? So just like that, that is what our lecture notes talk to us. And some of the students said yes. Yes about what? Yes, overstay or understay. So you have to write down if it will be overstay or understay. So overstay, of course. Now you may think about that. Here will be the table. The price of all orange increase double,
呢兩個比較
and the price of
聽唔到講嘢
plum
我跟住
degree. So you may expect that. Now, in theory, the quantity of CPI basket will be fixed. But for reality, household can do whatever they want. Right? They can buy more or they can buy less. So, in this question, we face with the problem of about why? Because we have a problem of substitution bias. The CPI missed this substitution. You look about that since the orange became relatively more expensive, and we expect the buyer, the consumer, will buy the cheaper one. That will be the problem. That will be the problem. So they will buy more plum and less orange. Right? So you have to write it down here, and then you will score the marks. So miss this substitution because it used the fixed basket. Because it used the fixed basket. Okay, any questions? Let's see here. So the example will count as 1 mark. The example about what? So you just write down that since the price of orange becomes more relatively expensive, become 1. So the buyer, the consumer, will buy more plum and less orange. You will score another 1. Yeah, that will be 2 marks here. Yes, yes. Because some OMG, I don't know what's meant by OMG. Because some students said about
God, you don't know what
they will buy, for example, they will buy more apple. I don't know why they said they will buy more apple. Okay, yes, that will be. So you just use this as a discussion here. Okay, yeah. OMG stand for what? I don't know. Yes, that will be. Okay. Now, any question about us here? So totally 4 marks. Then number 3, that will be a comparison between about what? CPI and GDP data. Now, Panasonic, you know what's meant by Panasonic, right? That would be a Japanese good. And what's mean by electrical applicants? Electrical applicants, that would be 電器啊嘛，係咪？That will be 電器啊嘛，係嘛？ So what's mean by that? Raise the price of electrical applicant. Explain the effects on the CPI and the GDP debate in Hong Kong. So here would be CPI, you know about that. It would be the basket, I mean the goods in the basket. And it would be the goods that bought by a typical consumer, right? So if Panasonic raised the price, 落星牌啊, raised the price of the electrical applicant, it means that the buyers in Hong Kong, the consumer in Hong Kong will pay more. So will pay more. It will increase the cost of living here. So CPI will go up. Here, CPI, it belongs to the CPI basket. CPI will go up just like that, right? One mark each. However, how does it affect the GDP data? Now you know about that. Just what we said. Panasonic will be a kind of Japanese firm, and the Panasonic product, Panasonic product, that means the electrical applicant will be an imported good for us. Will be an imported good for us. So it would not be included in GDP, and it will be deducted from GDP, right? Because GDP means gross domestic product. It is imported good, and it will be deducted. So it won't affect any GDP data. So for some students said it will be uncertain. No, it is not uncertain. GDP data would not be affected. That would be the point. So any question about that? Here. The moment right. That's it. Okay, thank you. Now for question 4. Now that is what we want you to learn from this assignment. You have to do some research for yourself, right? So you just click inside and look at the website and browse around the website, and you can check that the GDP in Hong Kong for 2019 would be about 28 something. Now that would be the updated data. There will be some guy give me the data. That will be not for that one because it is not an update one. So I will give the guy with 28 something about the one at the end. So that you score 1 mark. And if you find this one, you will get 2 marks. Just simple like that. Okay? So, any question about that? Now, and for the last question, many things are not measured in national income accounting. Now, for the stuff that we learn from national income accounting, that will be GDP for here. So you will related something. You will find something related to GDP. So here will be the question. Let's see. Here. The answer is correct. Yes. I got 0 mark. So you okay? Don't worry about that. You show me after the class, and I will check back your answer. Okay? Why imported goods do not decrease the imported goods do not decrease the GDP? Okay, you want to ask back the question 3. Here. Now you look back, you check it back for topic 1. What's mean by GDP? GDP means C plus I plus G plus NX, X minus M, right? And the imported good here for the electrical applicant, that will be the consumption good. So for GDP, C will go up for here. but it will be deducted. NX will fall. NX will fall. So the ingredient consumption good will be deducted by NX. Okay, you get it, right? You go back to topic 1. Okay, so we move back for here. Now, that is what we learned from GDP. So you have to find out something. Now, many things are not measured in GDP because we just learned GDP, right? How about 2 point? It is not decimal point. It is not 2.87 for here. You check about that. It will be 2,865,679 million. And you write here, that will be 2.87 million. It is far away from that answer. 呢個唔係2點幾啊，唔係2.8嘅 million 啊。That will be 2 million. Okay? So your answer is not correct. 唔係個 decimal point. Here will be no decimal point here. Okay? It is not the decimal point. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Now, so you look about that things not measured in national accounting. You have to relate something not reflected by GDP. So these are the stuff you can find it from our lecture note. Quality of environment. Now that will be because the question will be related. You have to find something that not related in national income accounting, but it will be related to the well-being of our society, right? Do you think national income is still a useful measure of society welfare? Welfare means something well-being. So you have to find something related to society well-being, related to society welfare, or related to society standard of living, but not reflected by our GDP, not reflected our national income accounting. Okay, so you can check it up in our lecture note. Quality of environment we discussed. Leisure time, non-market activity, and equitable distribution of income, right? Health, education, something that, and some normative issue not reflected by the GDP. So you can just code any two, right? Now, but for some of the students, they write something like the stock price, the transfer payment. It is not related to our standard of living, right? This is not related to our GDP. For example, you cannot call something like, for example, you are doing exercise, right? It is not, of course, not related to GDP. And some other students just put use the good, second-hand good. It is not related to our GDP because use the good or second-hand good, they are already recorded by the year they produce. 係嘛 ？second-hand good 已經計咗啦嘛，以前呢啲係舊嘢嚟噶嘛，係嘛？係啊。Once they produce, they are recorded, right? And someone said about the transfer payment. 一啲福利金 it is no point for GDP calculation because I may say about that if you are the household and you receive the transfer payment, and what will you do with the transfer payment? Most likely, if you get the transfer payment, you will do the consumption, right? So that will be recorded in the GDP. That will be recorded in the GDP. So it will be no point to put it. So these are the stuff you can put it up. And these are the stuff are related to the well-being of the society. 係嘛？唔係樣樣嘢都擺噶嘛，係有意思噶嘛，係嘛 ？OK 啊，唔通食飯啊、行街啊，即係會be related。 right? Here will be. So, and then you can just put any two of these. Now, the final part of the question here. Let's see any question. Why transfer payment? Let's see. Transfer payment is one answer. Yes. Why if we want now? Let's see. Because why we say that? Now, for example, I just mentioned about that. If I am the one who received the transfer payment, right? And to a certain extent, if I have the transfer payment, I will do the consumption, right?
但係本身嗰樣嘢唔計㗎嘛，開咪同佢講啦。
So the consumption will be reflected by the GDP, right? So it will be no point to write the transfer payment. There will be.
都係啦，subsidy 都係。
So yes, now I'm telling you for transfer payment, and transfer payment will be a sort of what?
But the net,
it will be a sort of transfer of income, right? If I am the transfer, if I am the transfer payment recipient, if I am the one who receives the transfer payment, what will be I done for the transfer payment? If I get the transfer payment, I will do the consumption, right? So the consumption will be reflected by the consumption will be reflected by the GDP. 係咪啊? Yes, that will be. Of course, transfer payment would not be part of the production. Here will be. 咁當然係啦。But if I talk about the well-being of the society, the transfer payment for those who receive the transfer payment will do the consumption, right? So as long as I do the consumption, I will get certain part of the well-being, and of course, that will be here. And transfer payment itself has no production at all. It will be just a distribution of the income. And for those who receive the transfer payment, they will do the consumption. Now, it will be part of the well-being. 係嘛？咁呢個都係反映到出嚟㗎嘛 ？OK？ 咁呢個係反映出嚟㗎嘛 ？So you don't need to do the you don't need to put this as the answer 係嘛？咁呢個冇咩特別意思㗎嘛 ？OK？ 係嘛？個受益人佢會做 consumption 㗎嘛？咁呢個應該係反映咗喺個 GDP 裏邊啦。OK？If you want to reflect this as a well-being. Now here would be, let's say, GDP is still a useful measure of society well-being. Now that is what I keep saying that in the lecture from the beginning up to now. 點解我哋成日都會講 GDP 係一個 so far I always say about that so far the best indicator. 點解我咁講啊？ Because to a certain extent, the higher the GDP, that means the higher the income of the economy, right?
Yes.
What they can do with the income. With higher GDP, that means they can hire input that help produce the things that contribute to the welfare. 點解我哋咁講啊？ The higher the GDP, the higher the education we can provide with. 係咪啊？ The higher the GDP, we can hire the input that clean up our environment. The higher the GDP, the higher the educational system, the higher the medical system, right? 係咪？你個 GDP 越高，即係你個 income 越高，咁你生產嘅教育，你嘅醫療系統就當然可以提升啦。係咪啊？ Something you have to have money in order you can provide with. So the higher the GDP, the higher means the medical system, the higher means your educational system, which is related to the well-being of the society. That is related to the welfare of the society, right? So here would be 有冇問題 to a certain extent. And we just say that no other single measure is better than GDP to measure our standard of living or to reflect our standard of living. 係嘛? But we have to admit that GDP is not the perfect measurement. 係嘛? 你留意返，我哋只會咁講 GDP so far the best indicator, so far the best measurement, but it is not the perfect measurement. 係嘛? 佢唔係完美，但係到目前為止，佢係一個指標，佢係一個最好嘅方法。Anyway, a single measurement. Okay, now any question about that? If you put something like that, you will score 2 marks, and this is with half mark each. Okay, now any question for that? Now for those who have a question, can stay behind, and then I will upload the answer by the end of the Friday or Saturday. So, any question about that? If no, I believe that will be the end of our lecture. That will be the end of our lecture. And one important thing to remind you that we will have an online quiz on Saturday. We will have an online quiz on Saturday. So make sure that you